So you bought a big shiny ball. This is how your package works. Balls will come in whatever box it is, usually wrapped in cellophane. Just unwrap. Just some basic things about your big shiny ball. It is a PVC layer that's clear plastic that's inside, and then the beautiful Mylar shiny layer that makes it look pretty outside. The Mylar layer is just there to be beautiful. It actually doesn't hold any of the air. The inside layer is what holds all the air. You will find when you unwrap your package, next to the valve, there will be a small hole. Yes, it's supposed to be there. Do not cover it. This little hole is there because as the inner layer expands, there's air trapped between the two layers that wants to get out. This is how it leaves, okay? So occasionally you might hear air escaping around the hooks and other things. That's natural, that's normal. Next is the valve. Your valve is here. That's how it opens the valve. Inside the valve is a little button. If you push it and give it a quarter turn, it should pop out. In many cases, it's already popped out, but you can just take a look. It will also serve, when you press it, as a quick release valve. So when the ball is full and you go like this, it'll go shh and let the air out. You can then lock it in the open position and it'll deflate all on its own. Now your pump. Your pump will come. New pumps are smart because they come with the right connector tied to the pose. Our old pumps are not that smart. You might have one of those, in which case there will be 3 things connected on a little stick, 3 connectors. None of those are it. Somewhere floating around the box is one more connector that looks like this. This is the one you want. It gets lost, people don't look for it, it's in with the plastic, people lose it all the time. This is what makes the balls work. It's semi-standard, similar to an air mattress or stand-up paddleboard. This goes in the hose, okay? You have your little pump, goes on. Just so you know, when you want to deflate your balls, you can actually just take this hose on and put it on the other side, and then it deflates. Before we inflate the ball, just so you know, this has a locking mechanism. So this goes in, pushes, and locks. It should be locked in there pretty good. Okay, once it's locked in, inflate until the seams are smooth. When these are smooth, it's usually done. You might see some wrinkles still in the body of the ornament. Sit tight and wait. They naturally will stretch out over the next couple hours, okay? This little bit here, that's what we talked about. That's where the air escapes. When I push it, you can even hear like a little more air escaping that's kind of trapped amongst the things. If you took it off and it deflated right away, it was that little button we talked about, and that would have been the issue. And so if you take the pump off and it does this, and looks sad, don't worry about it. Just push it, quarter turn, it pops out, you hear the air stop, and then you fill it up one side. Well, 2 things. Less so with the small ones, somewhat with the large ones. These pumps run a little hot, so especially on the big balls, if you fill them up, wait 20 minutes for the air to cool and then top them off again because the air is gonna shrink as it gets from hot to cold. Second, just so you know, they're strong. You can sit on them. Hook is there for hanging. If you put these things indoors, they'll stay inflated for months as long as the valve is tight, okay? Occasionally, the next day, you might come in and all of a sudden your ball looks all sad and wrinkly. All that is this valve. Occasionally, when you inflate and deflate them, this valve will loosen. Your order should have come with a little wrench. If it doesn't, we'll show you a trick in a second. You can always just double check. The little wrench goes in here. See, it cranked and turned, which means it needed to be tightened a little bit. Now, it'll stay inflated for months. If, by some chance, you don't have this, do not panic. This does just the same. So as you're inflating it, while your thing is in, just give your wrist a turn, and it does the same thing, okay? And that works just as well, and actually, to be perfectly honest, it's the way I do it. I never use the wrench. I always just use the handle, so it's pretty common. Last but not least, if you put these things outside, just remember, we have not been able to change the laws of physics yet. So these things work fine in the hot, they work fine in the cold, from like -20 to like 130, like no problem. The big problem is huge swings in temperature. So if your morning starts at 20 degrees and ends the afternoon at 80, air expands. The inside bladder expands more than the outside will allow. So on days like that, if you're not careful, seams can split. So how do we avoid this? Our suggestion is to fill these things up at the warmest part of the day, and so they're hard or firm to the touch of the warmest part of the day. That way the worst thing that'll happen is like on a cold morning, it might have some old man vibes, and then by midday it'll always pop to attention. But that will happen and can happen, especially as it gets cold. And that's much better than the other way, which is it starts firm and then splits in the afternoon. If you know it's going to be unseasonably warm or something along those lines, you can always go and let a little bit of air out just like that, and that usually will solve all the problems. I always keep a pump handy just in case you ever have to top off or de-inflate. But just be wary if you're putting them outside that these will happen, especially depending on weather. And that is it. This is your big shiny ball. Enjoy it. Put them up for your special event or for your holiday. And if you need any other assistance, we are here to help. Don't hesitate to call or email us.